Russia successfully test-fired Zircon, also named Zircon, hypersonic cruise missile in the Arctic, the country's defense minister has announced. On the 26th of November, the frigate Admiral Gorshkov in the White Sea fired a Zircon hypersonic cruise missile. Xinhua News Agency, or New China News Agency, quoted the ministry as saying it reportedly hit a naval target 450 kilometers or 280 miles away in the Barents Sea at a speed of over 8 Mach. The outlet also reported that the same frigate test-fired the Zircon missile for the first time, striking a ground target over 500 kilometers or 310 miles away. It further added last month, the warship deployed in the White Sea destroyed a naval target in the Barents Sea with a Zircon missile. The interesting point to note is that all these details are published in the Chinese media outlet. Ideally, China should have nothing to do with this. So there's obviously more than what meets the eye. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes how Russian President Putin has scuttled Chinese Premier Xi Jinping's North Sea route ambitions with Zircon hypersonic missile. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by the free-to-play military vehicle combat game War Thunder. We talk a lot about military vehicles on this channel, but what about trying them out for yourself? In War Thunder, you can choose from more than 1,200 playable vehicles from the 1930s to the 1990s and go to battle on more than 80 theaters of war. You can fly aircraft, helicopters, drive tanks, and command ships of all types and sizes, which have been carefully recreated from their real-world counterparts. It's available as a free download on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One with cross-platform support. So grab your friends and give it a try. All viewers of Defense Updates that register using the link in the description below will also get a free premium tank, aircraft, or ship and 3 days of premium account time as a bonus. As the ice caps melt in the Arctic, it will become economically viable to navigate. Russia is gearing up to monetize the potentially lucrative Northern Sea Route (NSR) as the Barents Sea and Arctic thaw faster than anticipated. In August 2017, the first ship traversed the Northern Sea Route without the use of icebreakers. The Dutch Bureau of Economic Policy Analysis projected in 2015 that the Northern Sea Route may be ice-free by 2030. A 2016 report by the Copenhagen Business School found that large-scale transatlantic shipping may become economically viable by 2040. The Northern Sea Route could make connectivity between Europe and Asia 40% faster, cheaper, more fuel-efficient, and greener. Russia will lose land as the ice melts, but it may gain nearly 1.2 million square kilometers in its continental shelf, which means it will have rights to extract undersea minerals and energy resources. Zircon is the first hypersonic missile that's been operationally deployed. An object is said to be hypersonic once they exceed speeds of Mach 5, or 5 times the speed of sound. This is about 1,715 meters per second, or 3,836 miles per hour, or 6,174 kilometers per hour. At Mach 8, it would take the Zircon about 164 seconds to reach a target 280 miles away, or 450 kilometers away. If a target ship has its search radar mounted 100 feet off the ground and Zircon flies at an altitude of 1,000 feet, the radar would be able to detect the missile around 50 miles or 80 kilometers out. From that point, Zircon will need only 29 to 30 seconds to hit the ship. This means the ship will have only about half a minute to detect, track, identify, launch interceptor missiles, and achieve intercept. Currently, there is no dependable way to counter this missile. Also, since Zircon is heavy and fast, it will have lots of kinetic energy, which will come into play along with the explosive warhead, and a single hit from it could be enough to cripple even an American supercarrier. testing of such a lethal missile in the Arctic is a message that Russia is serious about defending its rights. It's similar to another such move. In early June 2017, reports from Russian media indicated that yet another ground forces missile brigade received the dreaded Iskander-M missile system. The brigade was the 29th Army's newly established 3rd Missile Brigade, based in Russia's enormous Eastern Military District. Viewers may note that Eastern Military District is basically meant to defend against any Chinese invasion. Initially, Russian President Putin had dismissed climate change, but he's moved away from that line and signed the Paris Accord on climate change. Mr. Putin is now trying to use it as an advantage. He stated in this context, "The issue," he has said, "is not stopping it because that's impossible, since it could be tied to some global cycles on Earth or of planetary significance. The issue is to somehow adapt to it." Russia is building up its military presence in the region at a rapid pace to protect its interests. It now has 7 bases along the shipping route, the latest being Northern Clover on Kotelny Island, deep inside the Arctic. The Russian military is spending significant resources to ramp up its muscle in the Arctic, and the naval activities in the region have increased many folds. Russia considers the Arctic has its sphere of influence and wants this region to be primarily governed by the 8 Arctic nations: the United States of America, Canada, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and Denmark, with Greenland and the Faroe Islands. Moscow is not interested in having a non-Arctic power, including China, having a share of the pie. China announced its official Arctic policy to the world in 2018 through a white paper. China, which is no closer to the Arctic than Poland is, has been working on its Arctic strategy for an extended period of time, with its induction as an observer state on the Arctic Council approved in 2013. It identifies itself as a near-Arctic state in the white paper and indicated that it has its own economic and foreign policy interests in mind. According to the white paper, China wants to tie the Arctic to its Belt and Road Initiative, encouraging joint efforts to construct a Polar Silk Road, or Blue Economic Passage, that would link China and Europe through the Arctic Ocean. Beijing's ambitions for the region clearly raises fears that it will eventually flex its military muscle in the area, as it does in the South China Sea. When it comes to the Arctic, Russia and China are clearly not on the same page. China's expansionist policy has resulted in it having several disputes. It's to be noted that behind the seemingly friendly relations between Russia and China, differences are already brewing. President Vladimir Putin's homeland, some time back, accused Beijing of spying. Russian authorities have found Valery Mitko, president of its St. Petersburg Arctic Social Sciences Academy, guilty of handing over classified materials to the Chinese intelligence. This indicated that China was working actively to compromise Russian interests. Another incident seems to have left a very bad taste. To celebrate the 160th anniversary of Vladivostok, a video was posted by the Russian embassy on the Chinese social media website Weibo. But Chinese, including diplomats, journalists, and social media users, objected to this almost instantly. They claim it was Qing's Manchurian homeland, but was annexed by the Russian Empire in 1860 after China was defeated by the British and the French during the Second Opium War. Chinese claims on Vladivostok has infuriated many people in the Russian power circle. Yevgeny Levadny, Rostec's chief of intellectual property projects, on December 14th, said, "Unauthorized copying of our equipment abroad is a huge problem. There have been 500 such cases over the past 17 years. China alone has copied aircraft engines, Sukhoi planes, deck jets, air defense systems, portable air defense missiles, and analogs of the Pantsir medium-range surface-to-air systems. This kind of outburst is rare and marks a tipping point. Russia has also halted the delivery of critical components of S-400 air defense systems to China. Clearly, Russia is conscious of China's long-term goals, and this test has been done to send a strong message to China.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.